going to be my review of StormWatch Lightning Strikes. Now, a while ago, I did a review on the other StormWatch Warren Ellis run trade, Force of Nature, and this is the continuation of Warren Ellis's run before, and there was also a few other volumes, but this and the other StormWatch volume I'm going to be doing a review, because I figured I'm just going to review the other two trades I have for the Warren Ellis run. And unfortunately, I don't own, because there's a third book that I don't own. I unfortunately don't own the other volume that concludes the first volume of StormWatch, and I do have the one that I'm going to review, A Finer World. So unfortunately, I don't own that, but I pretty much got the gist of it, of what was going on. Anywho, let's move on to Lightning Strikes. Now, Lightning Strikes is an interesting one to talk about, because the thing is that it doesn't really have coherent stories, whereas Force of Nature has multiple story arcs that are about 2-3 parts long each. Lightning Strikes has a few standalone stories with Jack Hawksmoor, Battalion, or better known as Jackson King, Jenny Quantum, Jenny Sparks, excuse me. Yeah, Jenny Sparks and Rose Tattoo, which doesn't really focus on Rose. I'll get to why I say that, but let's talk about the first one, Jack Hawksmoor. The Jack Hawksmoor standalone story was great. I really enjoyed it. Jack's one of my favorite characters in StormWatch, as well as pretty much independent characters in general. He is this very I wouldn't say sadistic. He's very sarcastic, very violent. But he doesn't like to be violent. He also does everything for the city. He sometimes doesn't do it for the good of the people of the city. He does it for the city of himself, the city itself. Because for those who don't know, his origin is that pretty much aliens invaded his home as a child and gave him special organs that allowed him to communicate and as well as control cities. However, he can't stay out of a city longer than 45, even like about a half hour long before he starts getting sick. And if he stays any longer outside of cities, he'll die. So, yeah, this story pretty much falls around him hunting a serial killer who turns out to be the bastard son of the president. Yeah. And it's a very nice story of him learning about all this and how he manipulates his powers. It's a very interesting story. It's one of my favorites because when they drop that bombshell, and I don't feel like I'm spoiling anything here because this is an old book, and yeah. And if anyone's watching, you guys are probably big StormWatch fans as well, so you guys know what's going on. And if you didn't want to be spoiled, I'm sorry. But it's like, oh my god, because Warren Ellis is willing to go there. So, yeah, illegitimate child of the president. That's a serial killer, okay. And, yeah, how he manages to take out this guy is also pretty interesting, and how he takes him out and exposes him at the same time. And I don't want to spoil how he does that. But it is a very interesting cover-up story that Jack managed to unfurl. The next story follows around Jenny Sparks, and her story is kind of interesting how Jenny's story is told. Jenny's story is told like multiple comics through eras. We've got one story which is like artwork from the 30s, and it has Jenny in poses like Superman back in the 30s. And then we move on to other eras, like there's an era that looks like it was drawn by Jack Kirby. Then we have an era that looks like it's straight out of Watchmen. And so it's basically them going through the eras and how they kind of emulate the artwork of those comics. And I thought that was very interesting. And it all strings along into one big story that when you find out and I don't want to spoil this one because this was one that made me go, holy shit. No, really, like, I was just reading it, and when I got to that big reveal of this mystery that's been spanning from 1930 to the 1980s, and you find out what was going on and how it involves missing children and again, the government in some ways, your jaw will drop. So I don't want to spoil that. I know I spoiled it in the first one, but this is my second favorite story to these one-shots. The next one is Jackson King, who's better known as Battalion in here, and it's him trying to have a day off when a bunch of uber Republican, ultra white supremacist rednecks kidnap him and try to blow him up for some kind of weird rites. And it's a fun story. It was just the whole thing was that he was there at the wrong place, wrong time. Jackson was there at the wrong place, wrong time, and he's about to be blown up. So it's a fun way of how he tries to get out of the situation, and how he was just trying to spend a normal day after seeing his uncle. And yeah, this is just a fun story right here. I mean, it's dark, but at the same time, I kind of laughed at some of the dialogue, especially coming from Jackson. But yeah. And the next one-shot story is Rose Tattoo's story. Rose Tattoo's story doesn't really focus on Rose. It's just her killing and raping guards that are around her and her talking to Henry Bendrix. And while the rest of the team is going all over the world, just going out and drinking. Yeah, and we find out more about them and just them going around, getting drunk around the world and how much they hate the world itself. So yeah, that's a really good story. But again, it says Rose Tattoo one-shot, standalone story, and it focuses more on the team. Then the final story is a team story involving Fuji, Fahrenheit, Flint, and Winter. Excuse me. I can't believe I blanked on that. But the story is that, and also the artwork was, while most of the artwork is done by Tom Rainey, the guest artwork is done by Jim Lee in this issue, and this is like good 90s Jim Lee. And in here, the story focuses around this weird bleed into the universe of, and it involves the Damonites. These Daemonite sentries, and it's told as a report to the UN by the weatherman Henry Bendrix. And it's him, and it's all written like a report, and there's no dialogue, only in the dialogue boxes. And again, it's written like a report. All in all, I enjoyed this, especially the Jack and Jenny stories. The Rose Tattoo story had some really good dialogue, but I just feel like the focus should have been on her more. She just felt like more of a supporting character when it's supposed to be her story. However, I did love the dialogue between them all just getting hammered, and the action story itself, it's just, really this one felt more like this, ooh, look, Jim Lee's drawing shit. And don't get me wrong, Jim Lee's a great artist, and especially it shows in this issue he does. But the thing is that this story doesn't feel as strong as the other ones did. And again, I'm not saying that's bad, and my mind just went blank. I'm sorry, guys. But the thing is that this is still a good volume. Warren Ellis still does a good job with all these characters. And again, I'm sorry, but I can't. There was a third volume in here. I don't have the third volume because when I bought this at this little, I bought this and the other two volumes at this mom and pop bookstore for about $6. In all three of them were $6, like a total of $6. So yeah, I enjoyed this. Still, regardless, I enjoyed this a lot. And if you're a fan of StormWatch or anything Wildstorm, I'd say, yeah, this is another pickup for me.